Bryan is a character that excels at strong counter hits. He has one of, if not the best counter hit tools in the game. And not just that, Bryan also puts out one of the highest combo damage in Tekken 8 in general. If you like a character that has very strong counter hit tools and deals a massive amounts of damage, then Bryan is that character for you. In this guide, we are going to talk about Bryan's most important tools, how to use these particular tools, in what scenarios you want to use these tools, and just some overall tips, tricks, and tips on how to utilize Bryan's tools in Tekken 8. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, so let's start with Bryan's jab game, which play a very huge role in his offense. He has three very strong strings that work very well together. He has 1-1, 1-4, and 1-3. These strings go hand in hand, and I will break all of them down. So first, let's start with Bryan's 1-1. So this is a high mid string with the last hit being safe at only -6, which is very strong. It's +6 on hit as well, which is amazing. And the best part about this string is, firstly, it can be delayed like crazy, and secondly, Bryan, of course, being a counter hit archetype, it's actually a counter hit launcher as well. So already you can tell just how strong this string is in general, because a lot of people love to press buttons after jabs, but with Bryan you don't really want to do that because of this particular string. So this is why I say jab pressure with Bryan is especially important, because he is always threatening with the counter hit 2 at the end, which opens up some very strong mental mix-ups or mental frames. Because opponents expect you to throw out the last string, like I said, they won't press a lot of buttons after jabs. So this allows you to go for continued offense after your jab game, because jabs in general are -3. So most of the times you can still move around, maneuver, but technically opponents feel comfortable challenging you after you do jabs. But with Bryan, because of that threat of the counter hit last string or the counter hit last hit, people won't mash against you. So you can do like jabs into go low, right? Continued offense. Jabs go low because they're respecting you. Jabs grab. Jabs into more counter hit fishing tools, because like jab, they expect the last hit to just mess up your timing a bit. You throw jabs, throw in a forward 3, which is a counter hit launcher. You can do jabs into back 1, jabs into quarter circle back 1, right? Jabs into 3+4, just because of the last hit, right? You have conditioned your opponent not to press buttons after jabs because of that particular last hit. So you can do continued offense after your jabs for this particular reason. And the fact that you can delay the last hit as well just opens up even more mind games. Very strong string in general. Just good to throw it out. You're panicking, 1-1. What do you have to lose? It's only -6 on block. You can still like move around afterwards. You can throw like a dig jab afterwards even to steal your turn, which makes it very strong. It's also good for covering space. So let's say you throw out like a down 4 or a down 3. These laws are pretty good at creating space between you and the opponent. So you can create that space on purpose and cover that space immediately with your 1-2 jabs to get back in range and throw the opponent's timing off, because sometimes they won't expect that last string. Then Bryan also has 1-3, which is a high low. The last hit does knock down on counter hit, guaranteeing you his quarter circle back 4, which is his mid soccer kick. So already you do have this mix-up game between 1-3 and 1-1, and because you can delay the 1-1 string, it makes it a very annoying mix-up to deal with. Right, 1-3, 1-1. I'm sure you've run into Bryan players that just spam this a lot. 1-1, 1-3, 1-1, 1-3. It's a very annoying mix-up game, and you just have to be very careful sometimes to not get predictable, because if your opponent gets your timing correctly, they will start low parrying the low every single time. So that's very good. Sometimes just get the opponent's timing off. Sometimes just won't expect it, because again, people don't expect a third hit after jabs with most characters, but because you're Bryan, you do have the option to do this instead. And then you have 1-4. So 1-4 is a counter hit confirmable string that can take you into hit. Everything is guaranteed on counter hit. It's also a triple high string, so high. So this one is very difficult to counter hit confirm. You can delay it, but if you delay the 4, you won't actually get the whole string on counter hit to be natural. So if you're panicking a lot and you don't really know what to throw out, right? 1 to 4 is a very good option, and you won't get ducked all the time because again you do have the variation with the 1 to 1 string which ends with a mid. So in panic situations you can throw out that 1 to 4, but again if you do have the skill, it takes a lot of practice, but if you do have the skill you can learn to counter it confirm 1 to 4 and take you into hit all of the time, which is very strong. So all these strings work very well together. You have 1 to 1, which have the threat of the counter at the end. You have 1 to 3, which acts as a mix up to 1 to 1 and also has a counter hit knockdown for the low version of the string. Then you have 1 to 4, which is your counter hit confirmable string that can take you into hit. So both of these strings cover different situations. This is why I say Bryan's jab game is very strong in this game. It's very annoying to deal with a Bryan that has very good timing on these strings, especially one that utilizes 1 to 1 very well. So like, and 1 to 4 being a counter hit string, you want to have some good frame traps for this particular string. What I mean by frame traps is basically a setup where your opponent is put in a situation where they're not allowed to press buttons. If they do and you throw out this particular string, you will get a string guaranteed on counter hit. So for example, something very basic is a 1 jab. 1 jab is +1, meaning you are at an advantage. If you press 1 jab and press 1 jab again, if your opponent presses any button that doesn't really crush jabs, then they will lose or you will get the jab guaranteed. So 1 jab into 1 to 4 is a very good setup or very basic frame trap. Basically any move that gives you +1 and above is a very strong frame trap for 1 to 4. Stuff like back 1 is +4, back 1 into 1 to 4 is a very decent frame trap. Quarter circle back 3, his low soccer kick is +5 as well into 1 to 4, very good frame trap. We're speaking about 1 to 3. 1 to 3 is +2 on hit, so 1 to 3 into 1 to 4, and going back to 1 to 1 as well. So just like 1 to 4, 1 to 1 on counter hit guarantees you all 3 hits, so you can get that +6 on counter hit guaranteed. So again, 1 to 1 on counter hit into 1 to 4 is a very good frame trap. Again, anything that's +1 and above is a good setup or is a good frame trap for a 1 to 4 follow up. And you can go for 1 to 1 instead of 1 to 4 if you don't want to go into hit, or you are not sure that you're going to land 1 to 4 on counter hit. If you want to stay safer, 1 to 1 is a better option. And again, 1 to 1 is +6 on hit, so you want to really take advantage of that +6. So again, you do have some pretty good setups and follow-ups after 1 to 1 on hit. Forward 3 is one of the best follow-ups. Forward 3 of course comes out at 16 frames, so you're going to trade with your opponent's jab or dick jab, but it's going to be a trade in your favor. And forward 3 is a counter hit launcher as well, as I'll cover later in the video. You can do 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 again, 1 to 1 into 1 to 4, 1 to 1 into down forward 2, 1 to 1 into down forward 1, Godlike mix-ups. Yes, that's the basic stuff you can do for follow-ups after 1 to 1. So like I've said, these strings work very well together. As you can see, they're like yin and yang again. Very strong. Like you can be very effective just with these particular strings as a Bryan player if you use them very efficiently. Okay, so next up is Bryan's down forward 2, which is his version of a generic down forward 1. So just like Heihachi and Leroy, it comes out at 13 frames and it's -6 on block because it has follow-ups as well. It's also +5 on hit, which is pretty nice. It has 2 follow-ups, the first one being down forward to 1, which is a high follow-up. This one is -4 on block and +5 on hit as well. However, like I said, it is a high, so it can be done. You have to be very careful. It also has a mid follow-up down forward to 3, with this one being a mid and a counter hit launcher as well. Of course, being Bryan, being a counter hit god of Tekken 8, he has to have a counter hit launcher from his down forward 2. However, it is unsafe at -13, so very strong, but it does come to some risks. So as you can see, his down forward 2 has a ton of mind games to this. It's all about conditioning your opponent to not press buttons and forcing them to press buttons, because you can be so oppressive with down forward 2 pressure with this character. They start pressing buttons, they are at risk of getting counter hit by that down forward to 3. They can start twitch decking because of down forward to 1. It's just a bunch of mind games and a bunch of mix-ups. You can't just spam down forward 2 on its own to stay safe, but however, Because your opponent expects you to throw out a full string, either down forward to 1 or down forward 2, it opens up a huge can of possibilities with this particular move. So let's say generic down forward 2 pressure, right? Down forward 2 into your jab pressure, because again your opponent is expecting you to throw out a full string, right? So they won't press buttons, or at least they will delay, they will hesitate to press buttons. So it's a very good idea to throw out down forward 2 to implement those mind games or those mental frames. So like a down forward 2 into 1 to 3 pressure, a down forward 2 into 1 to 1 pressure, or down forward 2 into 1 to 4. You can do down forward 2 into counter it moves, right? Because again your opponent is hesitant to press buttons after down forward 2. So like a down forward 2 into forward 3, again down forward 2 into back 1, down forward 2 into 3 plus 4. Basically down forward 2 into any of Bryan's very good counter it tools. I will cover all of these tools in the video, guys, so don't you worry. But these are like very strong routes. So if you realize your opponent is pressing buttons after down forward 2, that's now a very good idea to throw out down forward to 1, right? So be like down forward 2, okay, you're pressing buttons, boom, down forward to 1, give me that +5, and from +5 again, you have some pretty strong follow-ups. Sometimes they tend to duck and do like a dig jab immediately, or like duck into down 4. This is where down forward to 3 comes into play. But again, guys, this is mostly about reads, because down forward to 3 is unsafe. So you just throwing it out randomly will get you punished. In Tekken 8, a lot of characters seem to have very strong 13 frame punishers. So it will hurt if you throw out down forward to 3s a lot without reads. So you have to be very careful. If you reach them ducking and pressing a lot of buttons, duck, dig jab, duck, down 4. The down forward 2 3 is that option for you. But even just down forward 2 on its own, into like buffalo parry or down forward 2 into side step. Remember again, down forward 2 is -6, so you can still move around afterwards, right? Especially if they do like a dig jab afterwards. So it's mostly about reads. It basically works like every other down forward that has very strong follow-ups, right? It's about the mind games. What is your opponent doing after you throw out a down forward 2? Used to make reads, used to initiate pressure as well. So in terms of frame traps, of course, being a down forward 1, anything that's +3 and above, down forward 2 is a very good option to throw out. So back 1 is classic back 1 +4, back 1 into down forward 2 pressure, really good. His low soccer kick, so low soccer kick into down forward 2 pressure. You have 1 to 1 on counter it, +6 into down forward 2 pressure. Horizontal back 1 is +5 into down forward 2 pressure if they press buttons, because a simple back dash can counter that. So that's basic stuff like that, just some ideas to get you guys going. I won't tell you every particular frame trap or setup you have to get your down forward 2 pressure going. The more you play Bryan, the more familiar you will be to putting yourself in situations where you can initiate some down forward 2 pressure. But a very strong tool, again, mostly based on the reads you make against your opponent. Throw out a down forward 2, then make decisions based off of what they do the next time you throw out a down forward 2, right? Are they ducking? Down forward to 3. Are they not ducking? Down forward to 1, right? Are they pressing buttons after down forward 2, down forward to 3? Are they respecting you a lot? Then continue your offense, right? Down forward 2 into more offense or more counter-oriented tools. That's basically how down forward 2 should be used. Again, initiate your pressure with this particular move. Okay, so now let's talk about his down forward 1, which works nothing like an actual down forward 1. So this is a 5-part string. The first part comes out at 15 frames and is -5 on block. So again, not really like a down forward 1 or the generic down forward 1, despite being a down forward 1. So it has 5 parts, and all these parts are hit confirmable. All these parts are -10 on block except the last hit, and this string can be hella delayed. But what makes this string so OP is the fact that you can still hit confirm it even if you delay the string. Every part of this string is hit confirmable. Like, this string is amazing for pressure. One might say it's even broken, I wouldn't argue, but it is very strong. The last hit is launch punishable on block at -15, but honestly, you shouldn't really get to that point because it's very easy to hit confirm, because again, you can delay it. It's very easy. This plays into Bryan's pressure game just like the way his jab strings work, right? Basically, the way his 1-to-1 works, or his 1-to-1, because you can delay the last hit of 1-to-1, people tend to not press buttons a lot. This works the same way with Bryan's down forward 1. Because it has a 4-part string or 4 parts after the down forward 1, people don't tend to press buttons in the middle of the string. So you can go like down forward 1, 1, 1, 1, right? And they'll just stand there because they expect you to finish the whole string, or at least 4 parts of the string. And every single part of the string except the last one is -10 on block, so it's unsafe. So sometimes the opponent will randomly try to punish you, but again, it's a mix-up situation, right? Are you gonna stop after the second string? Are you gonna stop after the third string? Like when they jab, it depends on when you stop doing the string. So it's completely 50-50, a complete mix-up game. But again, it depends on the reads that you make when you throw out this down forward 1. Into like down forward 1, 1, you can stop at the third or second hit and just continue your offense. If you notice your opponent is not pressing any buttons afterwards, like down forward 1, 1, then going to your jab string pressure, right? 1 to 1, 1 to 3, 1 to 4. We've spoken about that earlier. You can do down forward 1, 1, 1, then go for like 1, 4, right? Continue your pressure. You can also do like other things like down forward 1, 1, 1 into counter hit 2s. I love doing down forward 1, 1, 1 into forward 3 because again, your opponent does have this brain fart, right? They don't know when exactly to press buttons. Should they try to punish it? Right, they have a fear of getting interrupted. They have a fear of you actually doing the last hit again. So it's all about mind games and all about reads. So throwing counter hit 2s after down forward 1 is really good with Bryan because again, your opponent is hesitant. They have that brain fat. So like down forward 1, 1 into back 1. Down forward 1 on 1 into quarter circle back 1. The counter hit 2s after down forward 1s basically is very strong. You can also throw out counters after down forward 1s, like down forward 1, 1 into punch parry, for example. When you are in hit, or if you have snake eyes, you can go like down forward 1, 1, 1 into forward 4, 1 plus 2. This is a counter of the snake eyes. I will talk about this later in the video during the hit section, so look forward to that. So it's a very strong string for these kinds of mind games or pressure situations. And because it's 15 frames, you don't really have that many frame traps for this particular move. Most of the time, you will do this just in neutral, right? Dash up into down forward 1 pressure. Back 1 on hit is +7, so back 1 into down forward 1 pressure. A very good frame trap. You have 1 + 1, 1 being +6, so that into down forward 1 pressure. Just a few ideas or few scenarios or setups or frame traps for down forward 1. But basically, like I said, use it to initiate the pressure as well, just like you would his down forward 2. Right, you're pressuring him, jabs, boom, throw it down forward 1. Not pressing buttons, okay, go low, throw it down back 3, a down 4. Are they hesitant? Go for like a counter H2, like forward 3. Very strong poke. You will see high level players abuse this a lot because it's just so good, bro. It might be broken, honestly, it's very strong. One of his best tools for sure. Okay, so now let's get into some of Bryan's strong counter hits, starting with his classic 3+4, which is an 18 frame mid long range hitting counter hit launcher that's -13 on block, but because of the massive pushback that it has, honestly, no character in the game can punish this move. The only character that could punish this move was Armor King back in Tekken 7 with his shoulder, but AK isn't here now, easy. So this is an amazing counter hit to the classic Bryan 3+4, bro. It is so legendary, it is so strong. This move is mostly used for 2 things. 1, counter hit fishing, 2, of course, being a counter hit launcher, and 2, creating space. Now it is a counter hit launcher, but you don't really have that strong setups for this or like frame traps because it comes out very slow at 18 frames. But what it doesn't have in speed, it makes up in range. The range is amazing. Like 3+4 is very annoying to deal with. Like this thing just commands the mid range, just 1.5, 2 range. Bryan commands the space, and we'll talk about other moves like quarter circle back 1 and back 1. Like Bryan is the god of range 2, bro. Range 2, range 1.5. You have to be careful against this character. 3+4 has very good tracking to its right side, but pretty poor tracking to its left side. Honestly, you won't really find yourself getting stepped that much with this move with Bryan because it does have that quarter circle forward 1+2, which is a safe mid hit engager that has some really good tracking. This thing is basically a homing move. The tracking is amazing. So even at high level, you won't really see Bryan players getting stepped all that much because of that particular move. So it's best used side by side with 3+4. 3+4 is as easy as it comes. dash up, throw out 3+4, right? You're fishing for that counter hit launcher, mix it up as well by like sidestepping to 3+4, right? Dash forward, mess up your timing, 3+4. Don't just always spam 3+4, right? 3+4, 3+4, 3+4. You won't really be that successful with this move if you just randomly spam it all the time. You have to mix up your timing, right? Mix up your movement a bit. Do stuff that isn't really a frame trap, right? Let's say like a quarter circle back, a low soccer kick into side step 3+4. Like just mix up your timing when you're fishing using this move. Because of how slow it is, you won't really find that much success in learning this counter hit, but like if you mess up your timing, this move is so good, bro. It is amazing. It is just so difficult to do with this space. Oh my days, Bryan is a menace. So 3+4 is used in that sense in terms of counter hit fishing, and secondly, like I said, it is used for space control. This is one thing I think most Bryan players don't understand. 3+4 is not just solely used for counter hit fishing too. It's used to command, like I said, it's used to create that space and command that space, that range. Like in what situation are you mostly going to be using 3+4, and why are you throwing out 3+4 when you have moves like back 1 or quarter circle back 1? If you have a life lead, right, and an opponent is in your face, 3+4 is very good at creating that space for you if you want to just back out of the situation and reset the neutral. They have to be very careful because again, it is unsafe, but because of that pushback, most people are very tempted to like dash or to like chase Bryan after he throws out this move. So this can be very good bait for stuff like Orbital. Throw out a 3+4. Are they running towards you, or are they dashing forward with like maybe like a dash up grab or dash up go low? You have that defensive orbital, right? You can throw out a one jab after 3+4 to interrupt any kind of pressure they want to get going, right? So it's all about reads, and in what situation you're using this 3+4. You have a life lead, you have to create that space, boom, 3+4. 3+4, right? Back away from me. That's how I deal with 3+4. Sometimes 3+4 is good offensively as well, right? It creates space, so the opponent knows that okay, they have to now get in on you. So sometimes if you do 3+4, they will just back out. They won't do anything. They'll be like, okay, he's 3+4, he's still safe. Let me just chill. So this gives you like the freedom to like go back in, right? So 3+4, run back in, boom, another 3+4. 3+4, boom, run back in, low soccer kick. 3+4, dash up back 1, go low. So this thing of commanding space and creating space, that's what 3+4 is mostly good for. You won't really find that much success with counter to 3+4 compared to something like quarter circle back 1, right? But for space control and commanding the neutral, 3+4 is that move for you. But honestly, it's just a really good move to throw out, but you should know why you are throwing this move out and know what your next move will be after you throw out a 3+4. Don't just throw it out because it's a counter hit launcher. You must have a game plan for when you use this move. It's also +8 on hit, which is highly convenient considering the fact that 3+4 does come out at 18 frames. So you're gonna trade with a jab, but of course in your favor if you do 3+4 on hit into 3+4 again, which is pretty good. You have 3+4 into quarter circle forward 1+2, which is another very good frame trap option. They really can't move after this. 3+4 on hit into quarter circle back 1 as well. So really very good strong counter hit follow-ups or counter hit setups after 3+4 on hit, with 3+4 with quarter circle forward 1+2 being a very good mid check to catch their stepping as well and take you into hit. So it's a very strong overall versatile move, but mostly used for spacing and fishing as a CH2. Very strong. Quarter circle back 1 is another of Bryan's godlike counter hit tools. New to Tekken 8, this move is insane. It is so strong. One of Bryan's best moves, top 3 moves for sure. It is so good. So this is +5 on block. It is a high, although it says the 13 frames fast. Because of the quarter circle back input you have to do, it comes out at like 15 to 16 frames fast. On normal hit, it guarantees you a quarter circle forward 1+2, which does 44 damage, which is insane. And of course, it is a launcher on counter hit, giving you some really good damage. Like damage from this is stupid, especially when he goes into hit, burns his hit into Gatling gun. Oh my days, this move is amazing. So now, how do you differentiate quarter circle back 1 from 3+4? People might be confused on how you use these particular moves because they're very different. They are both counter hit launchers, but they do completely different things. So for starters, 3+4 is -13 on block, so the opponent is encouraged to counterplay after Bryan does 3+4 on block, but Kotesoko back 1 is +5 on block. So opponents don't really tend to press buttons after this. They mostly respect you for the most part, and Kotesoko back 1 has some really good range as well. The only problem is, despite being +5 on block, it has some massive pushback, so it's very difficult to take advantage of these plus frames. A simple backdash from the opponent usually beats or most of the follow-ups that you have after Kotesoko back 1. Like things that are +5 for Bryan and stuff like down forward 1, right? Down forward 1 is not a really good range, right? Stuff like down forward 2 to follow up, but because of the pushback, a simple backdash will beat all of these options. So with that said, you won't really use Kotesoko back 1 to use the plus frames at mid-range. Kotesoko back 1 is a counter-hit fishing tool. Now this one, more so than 3+4, is mostly used as a counter-hit fishing tool and controlling the space as well, but the only risk is it's a high. So that's the biggest difference between Kotesoko back 1 and 3+4. It can be ducked, it can be launched, and just like 3+4, it has pretty good tracking to its right side and pretty weak tracking to its left side. So just like 3+4 again, you must use Kotesoko forward 1+2 as the mid mix-up to Kotesoko back 1. This is like Kotesoko forward 1+2 is best friends with like Bryan 3+4, backward, and Kotesoko back 1. You have to use that up as a mix-up. This move is ridiculous for pressure, guys. Like, this is why I say Bryan really commands the mid-range, the 1.5 range to 1.2 to 2, sorry, the 1.5 range to 2 range. Back 1, 3+4, Kotesoko back 1, just these 3 moves. Kotesoko forward 1+2 completely command this space. It's very difficult to challenge Bryan in this range, so you can go crazy with this move. And the fact that it's +5 means you can just spam it, right? Kotesoko back 1, Kotesoko back 1. He does have some decent crushing sometimes because of the backswing that he does, so sometimes it does go under jabs. As usual, let's start with some basic frame traps. Now I said it is 13 frames, but because of the Kotesoko back input, it does come out a little bit slower, something around 15 to 16 frames. So you don't really have that many moves that put you at +6 or +5, right? There are very, very few. Stuff like back 1 on hit is +7, so back 1 into Kotesoko back 1 is a very strong frame trap. They do all standing 4, or like anything that's a mid that doesn't go under highs, they will get counter hit. We spoke about 3+4 earlier. On hit is +8, so Kotesoko back 1 is a very good frame trap, a very good setup. Follow up, they press buttons, they get hit. You also have down 2 on hit into Kotesoko back 1 is a very good frame trap. You have upward 3 on hit as well. But overall, you won't really have that many, just like 3+4, because again, it comes a little bit slow at 16 frames. So mostly, it's going to be used as a pressure tool. Dash up, Kotesoko back 1. That is it. Like, that is it. Back 1, Kotesoko back 1. Sorry, dash up, Kotesoko back 1. But again, just like 3+4, try to mix up your timing. And don't be too obvious when you do this move, like dash up into Kotesoko back 1. You keep doing that, opponents will start ducking. So like try to move around, right? Kotesoko back 3, boom, low soccer kick, move around, maybe like a side step duck, side step cancel into Kotesoko back 1, right? Jabs, move around, Kotesoko back 1. Just like mix it up, don't be too obvious. You also have different tools as well to use in tandem with Kotesoko back 1, just like 3+4. So the Kotesoko forward 1+2. So just mix that up. And in terms of spacing, just like 3+4, it's perfect for that, right? You have a life lead, Kotesoko back 1 is pretty good, but remember again, it's a risk because it's a high. But if you want to create that space, it's a very good option as well. And the added bonus is it's +5, so you can just keep going in. And if you're not pressing buttons again, just like 3+4, you can dash up and continue your pressure. So like Kotesoko back 1 on block, boom, dash up down 4, dash up down 3, dash up low soccer kick, right? Dash up back 1. Even just Kotesoko backward into 3+4, right? Again, it's about reads, guys. What is your opponent doing after you do Kotesoko back 1? Are they trying to duck it? Okay. Kotesoko forward 1+2, right? Are they trying to sidestep it? Okay, forward 4. For Kotesoko forward 1+2 also has pretty good tracking, right? Are they jabbing? Because jab tends to interrupt most of your offense or your follow-ups. If they're jabbing, start going for like down forward to follow-up, which becomes a frame trap. Remember, this will lose to backdash. But if they're challenging after Kotesoko back 1, then it's a very good counter. So this is the idea with Kotesoko back 1. Mostly a very strong neutral tool, or mostly used to fish out and get that counter hit, more so than 3+4. That's the biggest difference with 3+4. So you must use these tools interchangeably, right? Because they're both as strong, but they do the same thing, but not to the same extent, with the other being a high and a plus move. But Kotesoko back 1 is one of the best moves in Tekken 8, one of the most intoxicating moves to deal with. Like Bryan at this range No other character comes close. I'm sorry, not even Jin. Jin has forward 4, forward 4, 2 electric, but Bryan is much more scary in my opinion at this particular range. So when I talk back 1 is that counter hit big damaging tool for you. Very, very strong. And then for another of Bryan's strong counter hit tools, we have back 1. So back 1 is a bit of a combination of both 3+4 and Kotaseko back 1. It is the slowest of the two, coming out at 20 frames, and it's only +4 on block, unlike Kotaseko back 1, which is +5 on block. It's a mid, has some pretty good range, and is +7 on hit, and of course it is a counter hit launcher that does some really good massive damage. So it's kind of just like the in-between between the three, right? You have Kotaseko back 1, which is a high, has more plus frames. You have 3+4, which has more range, right? And creates more space between you and the opponent. But like back 1 is just something in between. You want a mid that has plus frames as well, then back 1 is that move for you. And of the three, it is the highest damaging counter hit launcher. It does some really good damage, bro. Like, dude, the damage off of this is pretty ridiculous. But like I said, the biggest downside is its speed. Coming out at 20 frames doesn't make it very good to use in neutral. It can be easily stepped. The tracking for back 1 in Tekken 8 is not that great, so you have to be very careful when you throw out back 1. The best friend for back 1 when it comes to tracking is down forward 4. Down forward 4 is a huge homing move that's safe on block, pretty slow, and guarantees you Kotaseko back 4 or knockdown. So this is going to be your best friend to use hand in hand with back 1. Like, you have to you can't just throw out back 1 on its own, right? The tracking is not that great, honestly. So what makes back 1 great, like I said, it's mostly the speed, right? Because you have all these 3 moves that basically work in the same sense, but like, because of the timings are pretty different, you're gonna confuse your opponent in which direction they have to step, right? Timings on when to step. Like, it's very difficult to counter all of Bryan's moves the same way, right? Kotaseko back 1 has a very different timing. People tend to sidestep duck against that move, but like with back 1, you can't sidestep duck into outstanding 4, because again, if you do an instant outstanding 4, you realign yourself with the opponent, boom, you get hit by the counter hit back 1. It's just very difficult to deal with all of 3 of these Bryan moves, especially when they're used in this sense with Bryan main, right, differently. But like, dude, it's just very difficult. So again, you just throw it out, right? You want plus frames, back 1 is that move for you. And if you land on counter hit, then that's just a bonus, right? But mostly it's used for pressure. Kotaseko back 1 used mostly for the counter hit fishing aspect of it, and 3+4 mostly for the spacing aspect of it. But like back 1 is a kind of in-between move. So it's +4 on block, and again, you don't really have that many follow-ups. Bryan doesn't really have like strong follow-ups at 14 frames, right? He only has like down forward 2, that's basically his best follow-up. Comes out at 13 frames, of course, so it's a frame trap. They can't really press buttons after this. He has down 2, which comes out at 14 frames. Back 1 is +4, so if they press any buttons, you will trade with them. That's basically his best options after back 1, to be honest with you. So if they start respecting you as they would mostly with back 1, you start mixing it up, right? Low soccer kick, you know, go low, down 4, down 3, just go in depending on how the opponent reacts after back 1. So these 3 moves are best friends: back 1, Kotaseko back 1, and 3+4. You have to use them hand in hand, because again, they have different timings, different speeds, different properties. So this completely confuses your opponent. They don't really know what move to expect at this range. Okay, I'm gonna sidestep again. Boom, dash up, down forward 4 or forward 4, right? And then sidestep duck, you have back 1, you have 3+4. Like, it's just very random, and sometimes it's very difficult to do. So back 1 is another of Bryan's very strong counter hit tools, but again, mostly for pressure and something in between 3+4 and Kotaseko back 1. Next, we have his classic forward 3, which is another counter hit launcher. Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said Bryan is a counter hit god of Tekken 7. So unlike the previous ones we've talked about, this one has like very bad range, 0 range, and it will make sense as to why. Comes out at 16 frames, is +5 on hit, and 0 on block, boys. This thing is 0 on block. This is a counter hit fishing tool that's neutral. You reset the neutral. When both of you jab after Bryan does forward 3, your jabs are both going to trade because the neutral has been reset. This move is very underrated by like mid-level Bryans, but at high level, you're gonna see Bryan mains hella spam this move. It is just so strong, guys. It also does some pretty good damage, as we've seen with Bryan's most counter hits, right? This character does like really insane damage. Any counter hit launcher from this dude and it's GG's, bro. It's just ridiculous. So this move is used differently from his other natural counter hit tools like back 1, classical back 1 and 3+4. This one is basically a poke. It's a poke and efficient 2 at the same damn time, and what makes it so strong again is the frame data, bro. 0 on block, so you can still challenge afterwards. Most counter hit tools in this game come with some risks, right? It's either very slow, easily sidesteppable, it's either unsafe, or it's a high. But this move, it's too good, bro. It's close range move, but it's a close range counter hit too, and it's 0 on block, so you can still pressure afterwards, which creates some pretty crazy mind games, bro. It's insane. It's pretty insane. So speaking about stuff like jabs, right? Bryan is very strong jab mix-up game. So talking about just like 1-1, because they won't press buttons after jab, so you can do like 1-2 into forward 3. They're hesitant, they will get counter hit by the forward 3 again, but again it's still your turn, because like 1-2 into forward 3 is 0, so you can still challenge afterwards. So what you want to do is see how the opponent reacts after you do forward 3, right? Are they jabbing you after forward 3? Are they trying to back away after forward 3? Like, it's based off of the reads. What you do after forward 3 is based off what the opponent does the next time you throw out forward 3. You have to adjust. That's basically Tekken, bro. Tekken 101 is all about reads, studying your opponent. So what is your opponent doing after forward 3? Then make decisions based off of that. So if they're jabbing, forward 3 into punch parry if you want, forward 3 sidestep duck, forward 3 into down back 3, which crushes highs. It's the fact that this thing is 0, dude. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. If they're respecting you, you can start applying more pressure or more offense. Forward 3 into go low, right? Forward 3 again, forward 3 classical back 1, throw out some counter hit fishing tools after forward 3 on block, and forward 3 into 3+4, forward 3 into back 1, again based on what the opponent does after you throw out forward 3. Then let's talk about some frame traps as well. It comes out at 16 frames, so you do have quite a few. We're speaking about how back 1 is +7 on hit, so forward 3 is a very good follow-up after that, pretty strong. Down 2 is +8 on hit as well, so down 2 on hit into forward 3 is a very good setup or counter hit frame trap. You have 1+2 is +8 as well, a homing mid. I'll talk about that later in the video. +8 on hit. Forward 3 is a very strong follow-up, a very strong setup afterwards, so pretty decent. So it does have quite a few number of frame traps, but honestly this one is more so a poke than it is a counter hit fishing tool. The counter hit is just a bonus, so go into forward 3, right? Back 1, forward 3, then again go from there. About reads again, read what your opponent is trying to do. Low soccer kick, boom into forward 3. What is your opponent doing after forward 3? The next time again, make decisions based off of that. So it's a very strong poke, very strong poke. Just think of it like a poke into, guys. A poke into, that's 0 on block. Then again, what you do depends on what the opponent does. Very strong, very annoying tool. And the tracking is pretty good at close range, because you want you to be using this, like further or like mid max range. You have to be in your opponent's face to throw out a forward 3, even dash up forward 3. We're speaking about down forward 1 mix-ups, right? The opponent has a brain fart after down forward 1, depending on when you do it, how you mix it up. So down forward 1, boom, throw in a forward 3 in there. They hesitate, if they press buttons at the wrong time, boom, a free counter hit for you. They block, it's basically still your turn. It's 0 on block, right? You can still move, throw in stuff afterwards. So it's just a very good poke in general. The versatility is what makes this tool very versatile. It's just so good, bro. I don't even know what else I can say. So forward 3, another of Bryan's strong CH launchers, which is also a very strong poke. Down 2, which I've touched throughout this video, is another of Bryan's really good poke. So think of it like another version of a down forward 1. It comes out 1 frame slower than the regular down forward 1 at 14 frames, is +8 on hit, which is amazing, and -2 on block. So more frames than the average down forward 1, which is usually like -3. So -2 on block is amazing. You can still move, still continue offense afterwards. Now it has an extension. The whole string is down to 3, with the last hit being unsafe at -10. It's a mid, and surprise, it is a launcher on counter hit as well. Bryan being Bryan, his counter hit arsenal is just stupid in this game. It's insane. So this is why this string is very scary. Just like down forward 2, just like 1-1, your opponent will be very afraid to challenge your down 2s because of this particular follow-up. And of course, Bryan does a shit ton of damage from all of his counter hit launchers. So you're going to use this move exactly the same as down forward 2. So if you skipped to this section using the timestamps, please, everything I said about down forward 2, more so in relation to down forward 2-3. works exactly the same as down 2. It's basically the same version of the string, but different frame data and different aspects of the string. Down 2 being +8 is what you really want from the string. Like +8, guys, is a lot. +8, you can't really sidestep on +8. You have some pretty good frame traps as well from this. We've talked about stuff like 3+4, a good follow-up after this. We talked about down forward 1 pressure, 1 to 1 pressure, forward 3 pressure after down 2 on hit, quarter back after down 2 on hit. Here are so many frame traps at +8, and this is why you want to use this string. And one thing I didn't mention as well is on counter hit, this string is fully guaranteed, right? And it's counted confirmable. You can also delay the second hit. So if you land down 2 on counter hit, you can visually see if the first hit lands on counter hit, then complete the second string or the second part of the string to get everything guaranteed on counter hit. So counter hit confirmable, which is amazing as well. Very, very easy to confirm. So this is what makes down 2 very, very strong. The only downside to down 2 is the range. The range is pretty bad, not as good as down forward 2, right? His generic down forward 2 elbow, but it does everything better than down forward 2. It has better tracking, it has better frames in general, and it has a counter hit follow-up being -10, whilst down forward to 3 is -13. So another of Bryan's great pokes, which works the same way again as down forward 2. So it has this kind of recurring theme of using most of his tools and pokes in quite a similar sense, but this one is very scary in my opinion because of the frame data. Buffer it, stagger it, use it in the same way as down forward 2 1 pressure. Amazing, amazing tool. Next, let's talk about Bryan's 1+2 homing move, which is going to be your go-to homing move at close range. Bryan has some big homing moves, but the only problem is most of them are slow. So this is going to be like your go-to at close range. So it comes out at 17 frames, is -7 on block, so it's safe, and +6 on hit, which is pretty good. And just like down forward 2, it has 2 different extensions. There's 1+2 1, which is mid-high, can be ducked. The second hit is also +6 on hit, which is pretty good. Then he has a mid version, which is 1+2 2. This one is unsafe at -14, and -14 is not that good. Honestly, you can be punished pretty hard in this game by a lot of characters at -14. But the good thing about this mid is it's actually a natural launcher on hit. If you have hit available, you can pop your hit burst, and you get a full combo out of this particular move. So just like down forward 2, guys, again, it works the same on how you want to use this move. Because you have 2 extensions from after 1+2 that you can threaten, people don't tend to press buttons after 1+2 because again, there is the threat of the follow-ups, especially that particular 2 when you have hit, because again it becomes a launcher. So you use this in the same sense as you use down forward 2, with the only difference this being a homing move, right? And after 1+2 1, you can actually hold back to do a backsway. So like 1+2 1, hold back and go into all his backsway moves. So backsway low, or his backsway into low soccer kick, his backsway into mid soccer kick, or backsway into QCB1. So it's pretty good in that sense. I don't want to make this guide too repetitive, me talking about the same thing. So please, if you're watching this using timestamps, please go back to the down forward 2 section, and everything I said about down forward 2 applies to 1+2 as well. You do stuff like 1+2 and wait to see how they react after you throw this move, because they know their extensions. Either they'll try to duck. If they know you're not doing extensions after 1+2, they'll try to challenge. So again, what you do is based off of the reads you make or what the opponent does. So if they press buttons after 1+2, finish the whole string, get a counter hit launcher. If you want to stay safe, do 1+2 1. However, it is a high, you get the risk of being ducked and launched. So that's the idea behind the 1+2 mix-up. So 1+2, right, they hesitate into jab string pressure, right? 1+2 into counter hit moves, 1+2 into forward 3, 1+2 into back 1, 1+2 into quarter circle back 1. So everything I said about down forward 2 applies to 1+2 as well. But the only difference, again, being a homing move. So being a homing move at close range, this is good after moves like back 1 and quarter circle back 3, his low soccer kick, because low soccer kick can be stepped, right? It's +5, but you don't really have a lot of tools that have good tracking after quarter circle back 3. So if opponents know this, they'll start stepping a lot. So 1+2 becomes a very good option after QCB3. Same applies to back 1. you do back 1, you have very good frame traps. We talked about this earlier, like down forward to follow up, but this can be stepped. So you have to throw in a 1+2 to catch them stepping and limit their options. Generically, this is how you want to use 1+2. If you just dash up 1+2, then mix up afterwards depending on what they do. For another of Bryan's homing moves, we have forward 4, which I've also touched upon regularly throughout the video. So this one comes out at 16 frames, but because of the forward input, it actually comes out a little bit slower, maybe somewhere 19 to 18 frames or even 20. It's safe on block at -9, leaves your opponent crouching. It's a high, and on normal hit, it knocks down for a guaranteed QCB 4 or quarter circle back 4. This move is amazing. Now, at first glance, it might not seem like much. It's a high and it's a homing move, so you do have that quarter circle back 1. So, but isn't it better to just use CB1 instead? Now, whilst I agree, at max range, I don't really advise using this move because it can be predictable at times. But if you know the opponent is going to hard commit to a side step, then forward 4 is a good option. And the other thing is QCB 1+2, quarter circle forward 1+2, talked about as well, is basically a homing move as well. The safe mid that takes you into hit has very strong homing properties. So overall, you won't really use forward 4 as much as you would quarter circle forward 1+2 at that particular range. But where forward 4 shines is its built-in evasiveness. So what you're going to notice about this move is it has a built-in, kind of like a built-in mini sidestep, right? And this is what most Bryan players don't know about this move. It has built-in evasiveness, kind of like I don't know, say a budget version thing up forward 2 or Jin up forward 2. The only downside is it has a forward input, and you have to be very, very fast to pull this off. And it's also actually more effective at close range. This is why you get the most value out of forward 4 at close range and not at max range. So let's say someone is in your face, right, mashing buttons, not really like in terms of plus frames and stuff like that, but just like, you know, mashing buttons in your face, like a 1 jab, down forward 1. That forward 4 will just throw them off, boom, get that random evasiveness, then you have a guaranteed knockdown into quarter circle back 4. That's the idea behind forward 4. You want to use it for that built-in evasiveness. Now, don't use it all the time. It's not as effective as Feng up forward 2 or Jin up forward 2. Again, because of that forward input, it comes out way slower. And if an opponent does a counter hit too that has very good tracking, you find yourself getting counter hit. So it's a very risky move if you spam it a lot. You have to be very careful on how you use this move. I think it takes a lot of practice. You have to put yourself in scenarios where you want to use this move. I don't think you just use it randomly, right? Let's say like a Bryan does back 1, for example, into down forward 2. Forward 4 is a very good option to beat that and side step. Or like a Jin down forward into forward 4, right? You have to find scenarios where you actually implement this forward 4 and not just randomly using it. The forward 4 is amazing because of that built-in evasiveness. Again, guys, put this in the lab and just try out some scenarios where forward 4 can work well in your favor. So now let's get into some of Bryan's lows, starting with QCB4. Now this low comes out at 19 frames, is +5 on hit and -13 on block. On counter it knocks down for a guaranteed QCB4. Now again, there's not much around this low. I've touched upon regularly throughout the video as well. Just dash up and do it, right? You have your plus frame moves, your back ones, your CB1s. Just dash up and do it. It's as easy as that. There's not really much to it. Honestly, it's Bryan's big go-to low. One of the biggest weaknesses of Bryan is that he doesn't really have that good high crush lows. So QCB3 is going to be always your go-to. It's going to always be your go-to low with this character. Your opponent can't really react to it. It's honestly a guessing game. It's either they duck or they don't. And Bryan has some really scary mids, as we've talked about throughout this guide. So ducking against this character is not really that much advised. He also has that orbital. So all in general, just go to town with this move, with this low. Just go to town, but be very careful of characters with very strong high crush, like Steve, for example. Steve back ones, you know, Mishima's electric. You have to be very careful on how you strategically use CB3 against such characters. At +5 on hit, your best 2 follow-ups are going to be down forward 2, which is a 13 frame follow-up, down 2, which is a 14 frame follow-up as a frame trap, and jet upper, which comes out at 14 frames. So jet upper is a natural launcher on hit. It is safe on block, but it is a high. So if your opponent tries to press any buttons that do not go under jabs or highs, they will get launched if you do jet upper. After all, it's a very good frame trap, has some good tracking to its left side as well. And if the opponent is deciding to sidestep, because they can sidestep these options, right? Down for 2, down 2, you have to start going for your 1+2, which is a tracking move we talked about. So it's a mix of situation, again based on reads. What is your opponent doing after you do this particular low? After you land your QCB3, make reads off of that, then make better decisions after that. But basically, that's how his low works. Nothing too complicated about this low. Just dash up and do it. Go to town. If they're not reacting, if they're not ducking, you can get so many of these. I've seen pro players even throw like 5 in a row and land everything. It's so difficult to deal with, especially with the mids that this character has. Down 4 and down 3 are going to be your go-to low pokes with Bryan. They don't really do all that much, honestly. The frame data isn't that great either. Comes out at 15 frames fast and is 0 on block. But what it's good at is the space control. This move is really good at spacing. It pushes the opponent back to the range that Bryan wants to be in. That QCB1 range, QCF1+2, back 1. That range that Bryan heavily excels at is what this low is all about. So when you have a life lead especially, it's very annoying because when you do down 4, the opponent has to figure out a way to get in against you again. And it's not that easy against Bryan because again, he doesn't have that QCB1, he does have that orbital. It's good for creating space and creating whiffs for yourself. That's where this low excels at, and that's something a lot of Bryan players don't understand. They look at down 4 and they think it's a very bad low because it doesn't do all that much. But guys, for space control, this low is amazing, right? Create that space, put yourself at that perfect range that Bryan loves to be in, and creating whiffs for yourself. It's also very good in terms of Okizeme, right? You get a knockdown, dash up, down 4. As soon as they get up, right, they have to guess for their lives. Even at the wall, it's very strong as an Okizeme option. Now down 3 works in the same sense, right? It's also 0 on hit, so you don't really get all that much. It comes out 1 frame slower at 16 frames. The only difference is down 3 does have a follow-up, down 3-1. So down 3-2, which is a high, so it's a low high. If the opponent commits duck, they can launch you, so you have to be very careful. But with that follow-up comes mind games, right? Just like down 4-2 mind games, 1+2 mind games, down 2 mind games, works the same as down 3 as well. So down 3, opponent starts ducking, okay, down 3 again. Down 3 for throw out jabs, down 3 throw out counter hit tools, just to see if the opponent is like commit ducking or just ducking into instant or standing 4, or like dick jabbing you, right? So that's where the mind games come into play. But it kind of works the same as down 4 as well. Create that space, create opportunities for yourself. That's basically Bryan's down 3 and down 4 low poke. And then we have down back 3, which is Bryan's only high crushing low. This also comes out at 16 frames, is -1 on hit and -12 on block. So just like down 3, just like down 4, doesn't really have that good of frames on hit. So this leaves you full crouching as well. So you do have quite some mix-ups coming from this. So down back 3 into outstanding 3 is a pretty good flowchart. Outstanding 3 is unsafe at -10, but it is a counter hit launcher, of course, by Bryan being Bryan. So if you do down back 3 into outstanding 3, if the opponent does a down forward 1 or anything slower than 11 frames, they will get counter hit. So your opponent has to jab you to interrupt this particular flowchart. So to counter that jab, you can do down back 3 into full crouch down forward 4. Full crouch down forward 4 is a huge mid that's -10 on block, but it has some really good high crush. It goes under jab. So down back 3 into full crouch down forward 4 to beat the jabs. If they start doing down forward 1, which will actually counter the full crouch down forward 4, go for outstanding 3 instead to get that counter. So you do have this mix-up mind game going on with down back 3, which is pretty nice. But at the end of the day, -1 isn't really that much, but you can still move afterwards. You don't get your turn back. It's all about reads. I keep on saying this in this guide. It's all about reads, guys. All about those reads. But basically, that's the idea behind down back 3. So as you can see, in terms of lows, Bryan doesn't really have that many options, but what he has actually gets the job done, especially that QCB3. That low soccer kick is very strong. But again, you have to be very careful against characters with good strings, good high crush, so good strings and good jabs and Mishima electrics and all that jazz. But overall, because of how strong Bryan's mids are, it doesn't really get that amazing of lows, but honestly, this is good enough. It gets the job done. So pretty good overall. The infamous Orbital Heal. I won't even take my time on this section. Everyone knows about Bryan's Orbital. Godlike safe mid launcher that low crushes and is safe on block at only -5. -5, you can still move after throwing this out on block. This is ridiculous. This is the ultimate defensive tool. The only tip I can give for this move is don't be too obvious when using Orbital. Don't overuse it too much. Use it when opponents least expect it, and mostly defensively than offensively. What I notice most low level Bryan players do, or like mid to low level Bryan players, is try to use Orbital as a mix up to low soccer kick. This does not work at high level, guys. No one is going to randomly duck against Bryan. Most people duck against Bryan when they instinctively know you're going to throw out the low soccer kick. So this is mostly effective defensively, right? When an opponent is rushing into your face, boom, Orbital Heal. It's also very strong against characters that don't really have very good strong long range with punishment. So think of characters like, so against characters like Hwarang, that has easy back 3, right? Asuka, June have that forward 2. Mishimas have an electric. Not really that good to spam against characters with very strong with punishment. So keep that into consideration as well. And like we're speaking about how Bryan is very good at forcing opponents to go at that 1.5 range, that's 2 range. So Bryan creates this space. It moves like down 4, QCB1, right? 3+4. Then opponents tend to just like dash in against you, especially if you have a life lead on them. They'll come running into you, and that's why this Orbital comes into play. So, and very defensive tools, very strong defensive tool, kind of use it like a wall, right? Okay, you just can't dash against me for free, right? I have this move. You're gonna get your ass crushed, so be very careful. That's the idea behind the Orbital Grudge. Don't spam it too much, guys. You're gonna get killed, especially against characters like Hwarang. That's basically how Orbital must be used. Very strong defensively. Now let's talk about Bryan's Snake Eyes and his hit. So Bryan has a new install in Tekken 8 similar to Claudio's Starburst called Snake Eyes. So he can get Snake Eyes by doing up forward 3+4 or taunting, but you're going to use more so up forward 3+4 than anything else. So Snake Eyes buffs quite a number of moves that Bryan has, starting with his forward 2, the Mob Punch. Of course, this one is a high hit engager, long range with Punisher, very strong. But when Bryan is in Snake Eyes, he gets an enhanced version of this forward 1+2, which does way more damage. Very strong. It's like a freaking truck. And the best thing about this, the most scary thing about forward 1+2 is the fact that it is a full-on counter. This thing absorbs highs and mids. It has this like sick animation where he absorbs the hit and boom, comes at you with a forward 1+2, does a shitload of damage, bro. It is so sick looking, and this is what makes Snake Eyes very scary. So now you have some pretty good baits and like setups you can use for forward 1+2 just to land this particular move. Like, it's so good, bro. It's so good, a very good counter. So some common setups are stuff like hit burst, right? Most people like pressing buttons after hit burst. So you're going to hit with Bryan, you can go for an immediate forward 1+2. If they jab, they get countered by the Mob Punch or the enhanced Mob Punch. Boom, big ass damage for you. Speaking about down forward 1 mix-ups, down forward 1 buffers, you get like down forward 1 squeeze in a forward 1+2, right? If they try to delay and attack you afterwards for a good mix-up or a good punishment. Down forward 2 staggers, same thing, down 2. So you can create some pretty good setups for this. Now I won't like start giving you guys all the setups because this guide will take like forever. We're already approaching the 1 hour mark, but you do have quite a number of things you can mess around with the counter. But honestly, in situations where you think your opponent is going to attack you, forward 1+2 when you have hit or when you have Snake Eyes is a very good option. It also buffs his up forward 2 combo or wall combo ender. So without Starburst, so without Snake Eyes or without hit, he only gets like 3 hits, right? Up forward 2, 3. But when you go in Snake Eyes, you can get up to like 5 hits, right? Up forward 2 into 3, which does a shitload of damage. Probably the highest damaging war ender in the game. This thing does a ton of damage. Hits like a bitch. So that's the other thing about Snake Eyes. This is why you always want to screw with up forward 3+4 if you don't have Snake Eyes, right? Because of this particular wall combo ender that does a ton of damage, pretty strong. Then it also enhances his forward 2-1 string. So without Snake Eyes, you can only get forward 2-1-4, which is pretty good. It's good overall. And when you are in Snake Eyes, when you are in hit, you get forward 2-1-2, forward 2-1-2, 3-2, which is insane. The whole thing is safe At mid screen, the last hit is -10, but because of it does a massive amount of pushback, no character in this game can actually punish you. It's only punishable at the wall, right? When you do it with the opponent's back against the wall is when it's unsafe. Every hit in between until the last hit is also safe. Everything is -2 to -3. So you can do like forward 2 1 2, you stay at -2. Forward 2 1 2 3, you stay at -3. So it is just insane. You can stagger it right, forward 2 1 2, boom, the opponent will just stay blocking because they expect you to do the whole string. So forward 2 1 2, boom, they stay hesitant. They realize, okay, he hasn't thrown out the last string. Let me try to attack. By the time they realize that, you throw out a forward 3, boom, they get countered, right? Forward 2 1 2, 3 plus 4, forward 2 1, jab game into jab string pressure. It is very, very strong, guys. This string, oh my days, Bryan is Snake Eyes is just a different kind of beast. He is insane. And the last move that he enhances in hit is his 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4 is spoken about this move, right? It's counter hit launcher. But when he is in Snake Eyes, this thing gets an extension, 3 plus 4, 1 plus 2, which does some massive amounts of pushback and is only -1 on block, which is pretty good. The whole thing is natural on hit as well and does 40 damage. 40 damage, bro. That's a lot. It is very, very scary. And the worst part about this, or the best part about it as a Bryan player, is he can actually hold the 1 plus 2 and it becomes a guard break. So Bryan at the wall is a very scary character, probably the scariest character in the game when it comes to wall pressure. I'll talk about this in the next section, his war game. This is what makes 3 plus 4 very, very scary. So now you can use a mix up between, you can mix it up between 3 plus 4 on its own, 3 plus 4, 1 plus 2, and 3 plus 4 hold 1 plus 2 for the guard break. Like this completely messes up the opponent, guys. They have to guess most of the time. It's just so difficult, guys. It's so difficult to deal with and very, very strong. So when Bryan goes into hit, he uses Snake Eyes moves for free at the cost of his hit gauge. You don't have to activate Snake Eyes when you are in hit. You gain access of all the buffed moves or all the enhanced moves at the cost of your hit gauge. That's basically how his hit mechanic works, nothing too complicated. And lastly, in this guide, I want to talk about Bryan's war game. So I said Bryan has one of the scariest wall pressure in the game, mainly because of 3 particular moves. So first, let's start with back 4. So back 4 is a very good mid. It just looks very basic at first, but this mid is actually plus 15 on hit. Plus 15 comes out at 16 frames fast. So this will guarantee you anything faster than 15 frames. So you can get a forward 2 at max range. Very, very tight window, but you can get it if you practice. And at the wall, Bryan does have a 14 frame launcher in jet upper. So meaning at the wall, back 4 on hit can guarantee you a jet upper, giving you massive amount of combo damage. So this is why I say Bryan's war game is OD. Now opponents don't want to duck at the, you just don't want to duck at the wall against Bryan. It's not worth it. So what does this mean? Bryan can now go crazy with his low soccer kick, his hatchet kicks at the wall, because the opponent won't duck, because if they duck, they hit a back 4 into Giga Chad damage, which is ridiculous. It is just so strong. The second reason is the taunt. Now this is some high level stuff. It takes a lot of practice and dedication playing Bryan to pull this off. You can take it a step further using back 4, because taunt is actually a guard break as well, but it's just frame guard break. You have to practice this a million times to get it right. So the guard break or the taunt will guarantee you 16 frames as well. So you can do guard break into back 4 at the wall, which then gives you the same route into jet upper, into screw, into big boy combo damage. This takes so much practice. I don't want to like discourage you Bryan mates, especially if you're new. But if you want to pull this off, right, you have to practice a lot with this character. You want to put taunt jet upper, practice your heart out. If you love Bryan, guys, then you're going to put in the time to learn this, because this is, well, honestly, what breaks his character is a taunt. But of course, it's a high execution and takes commitment and practice. Very, very strong. You can do, taunt into back 4, which is very hard, but you can do taunt into direct jet upper as well, which is a little bit easier, but again, still takes practice. So another reason why the opponent doesn't want to be at the wall with Bryan. This is why opponents also sleep or stay on the ground after combos with Bryan at the wall, because they know if they get up, they find themselves into that taunt jet upper situation or the guard break situation. And if they stay on the floor, of course, what do you have? You have QCB4, which hits ground and opponent. So Bryan has some really strong Okizeme, which I can talk about, but I think deserves a guide on its own. So I won't really get into that because I'm sure we hit the 2-hour mark if I start talking about taunt jet upper setups. So Bryan mains, please do some research on taunt jet upper Oki and taunt jet upper setups and just how to consistently land taunt jet upper. And lastly, of course, we spoke about his 3+4, 1+2 whilst in hit and the various mix-ups he has at the wall. So these 3 moves are why Bryan is very scary to deal with at the wall, and in my opinion, the scariest character at the wall. He is just so ridiculous, bro. It's insane. Up there with Yoshi, you know, Paul. One might argue that those are better, but I think Bryan kind of edges them out, honestly. But, you know, you can agree to disagree. So there you have it, guys, a complete guide on Bryan's most important tools and how to efficiently and effectively use them with just some tips and overall tricks around all of these moves. Now, of course, these are not all of Bryan's moves, but these are some of the most important ones you will see a lot at high level. So I highly encourage you to implement these moves specifically, but then of course, as you play the character, you open up the Pandora's box even more and just explore more options with him. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. Please do let me know in the comment section. I appreciate that much. These guides take a lot of time and effort. I've lost my voice on this one. Honestly, it's been crazy. But thank you so much, and I appreciate if you leave a like and subscribe. And please check out my other content. I will cover more Bryan stuff in the future. So thank you so much, guys, and may the Prime Data be ever in your favor. Take care, boys, and GG.